Welcome back. You just got done discussing reasonable chance for success and last resort with your chaplain corps leader. The next topic we are going to discuss is proportionality. You have probably heard proportionality in some military settings, maybe even on the news. A few years ago, then President Trump, mentioned proportionality in response to a particular action by Iran. So it is within our language that we use within the military. But what does it mean? Well, proportionality takes into account at least three things. The first is asking whether the justice that we desire outweighs the current status quo. In other words, maybe the justice we desire is just, we might even have the right intention for pursuing it, etc., but maybe it's just not much above where things currently are. But let's say it is, like we know that this justice that we desire is definitely better than the status quo that was caused by the injustice. Well, then the next thing we need to look at is the result of the war that we are about to engage in going to result in a situation that far outweighs the injustice that would occur if we just let the injustice continue. And as you might imagine, as soon as we start asking questions this way, we are talking about more than simply casualties. So let's take a look at World War II, because that's been our example. In World War II, we know that proportionality was, unfortunately, more than just casualties lost. On the one side, take for example Nazi Germany, they lost between 7 and 9 million people. Russia lost between 22 and 28 million people. The U.S. lost over 400,000, and we could go on from there, including England, France, etc. In other words, the Allies lost a lot more people than Nazi Germany lost. However, if we look at what was the injustice that led to the war, and what kind of injustices would have been there had we just allowed Nazi Germany to continue, a strong argument can be made that the response was proportionate. In other words, the justice that we desired definitely outweighed the status quo at the time, and the end result of reestablishing a more just social order certainly outweighed allowing Nazi Germany to continue as it was. President Roosevelt, in fact, himself, as I had mentioned in an earlier video, had discussed in his prayer that part of the reason for doing this was to respond to a, quote, suffering humanity. Also, he made it very clear that the U.S. was not seeking to grab territory, something I had also mentioned that we discussed earlier in this training. The U.S. was not trying to do a territory grab. So the response was simply kept to the question of what's proportional, how do we respond to the injustices, what justice are we trying to uphold, do we have the right intention, and on from there. So now you're going to be given the next few minutes to take some time to work through some practice scenarios yourself, to think about this question of proportionality, and it will give you the opportunity to think about what are some pieces of culture, society, ethical values, what are some things that factor into the way you think about proportionality.